You're listening to TGI Sports Talk with your host, Keith Angle, on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everybody. Keith Angle, TGI Sports Talk here on the Northeast Streaming Sports Network. Happy 4th of July. It's a little dreary. Hopefully today will be mostly dry. I think it'll be dry for your fireworks tonight. So good morning, Dave Guyette. Quickly up and saying good morning. How are you today? Hope you have a great 4th of July. If you've got some plans, any of you have some plans, I hope you have some fun. And as I said, same to you, Dave. Carlos, good morning. Carlos is early in the room this morning. He's ready to get on Jim Beringer's nerves when he comes in, talk hockey. Good morning, Rick Sherlock. Happy 4th of July to everybody. Hope you got some fun plans, and I hope it stays dry for you. We're gonna try. Listen, we're gonna talk about a lot of stuff today. First, I want to thank all my local loyal followers who showed up for our little TGI Talk, TGI Sports Talk Happy Hour Friday. Some of us were overserved, but that's another story. So thank you for that. I want to thank my guest from Friday, Kevin Kernan. Always some great insight. We're going to dive more into some of the stuff he and I talked about when we get to the baseball talk. I'm just livid about the Yankees. So we're going to talk, unfortunately, a lot about the Yankees today. First, we'll have Jim Beringer up in a few minutes, talk about the NHL. Obviously, as Carlos says, Montreal don't look too tough now. They're down 3-0. We'll talk to Jim Beringer about that. I really think they gave away the series in Game 2, and they dominated this game and still lost. We'll talk, as I talk, Major League Baseball. We'll get into standings. We'll look at some of the All-Star selections, all the All-Star selections. We'll look at the Yankees issues. Got some other things planned as well. The NBA finals are set. Big win last night for Milwaukee without Giannis. That'll be Milwaukee against Phoenix starting, I think, Monday. We'll check that out in a little bit. And the NFL, we've got a few odds and ends to talk about, but we'll start out with hockey today on this rainy morning. I wasn't able to set up outside. As you can see, I'm in my indoor studio this morning, and we won't have to worry about the wind blowing. Kenny just woke up from the hangover from the happy hour, so he had fun. Yankees need to start winning. We're going to be jumping into that, I promise. Yankees, oh my God, what a dumpster fire, Carlos. I'm sure you and I are on the same page there, one of the few times. And Rick is curious what Kenny's wife is making for breakfast. I will talk about Cashman and Boone, definitely Dave Guyette, when we get to the Major League Baseball section. I'm really unhappy, and I think drastic changes are coming. They get swept today by the Mets. It could happen as soon as tomorrow or Tuesday. That's in my mind. We'll see. Again, happy 4th of July for everybody out there who sees this today or sees it later. Hope you had a great day. No matter where you are, it's either hot or it's raining, I think. We'll wait for Jim. Jim ought to be in just a few minutes. As I said, lots to talk about. We'll get to some college football maybe later a bit, too. I was going to talk a little bit about the odds of winning. Some of the odds that are out as far as teams winning the championship. There's some good bargains out there, guys. If you want to go to Rivers Casino, there you go, another free plug. You guys got to start paying me. So, some great odds out there for some teams that you may not think are good. Let's see what else we got here while we wait for Jim. Talked about that. Max Bitter, don't respond to my comments, LOL. What's he bitter about? He's on the same page as you. Well, again, when we're talking about Cashman and we're talking about the Yankees, we're not all on the same page. I know you and I, Carlos, are not on the same page about one of the topics I will be talking about today. Kenny's wife is cooking Kenny banana muffins. So there's our morning update. What do we got here? Rick, it was finally he enjoyed being able to meet Drew and the Pulverizer, my brother-in-law, and Billy Pulver, who actually is my ex-brother-in-law from many years ago. We had a lot of fun. Keith probably had too much fun, but that's a story for another night. Indiana University will not be the championship run. Bet on that. Yeah, probably not the main topic of talk, but we'll see. Drew, same here. Back to Rick, and I'm sure all the others that were there. We had a lot of fun, guys. There was a lot of Jeremiah Red flowing. I'm a little surprised we were all on the same page there. Must be a TGI Sports Talk thing. So, as we wait for Jim Beringer, let's talk a little bit about the Stanley Cup. I'm going to get started with the conversation just a little bit. Montreal does lead 3-0. I'm sorry, is behind 3-0. The Lightning have won these games fairly handily, 5-1 in game 1, 3-1, and 6-3. Now, one of the big stories to me is game 2. Montreal on the road basically dominated. We're going to talk to Jim about this, I think, in detail. But they dominated that game and still lost at 3-1. You know? Vasilevsky, I never say his name right. I can't say regular names, Smith and Jones, and I'm supposed to be able to pronounce Vasilevsky over and over again. We'll see how I did with that when Jim gets on. But he stopped 42 shots. 42-23 they outshot. 43, I'm sorry. To 23 they outshot Tampa Bay that night. They played really well and still come out losing it by 2 goals. That's the turning point in this series. They win that game as a different series. Much different series. And Price is struggling a bit in goal. For Montreal, I really thought he was going to step up. I had predicted him to be the Conn Smythe winner in this. That will not happen unless for some reason they come back from this 3-0 deficit and he maybe throws 4 shutouts out there. They lost because they're not deep enough. You're probably right. We're going to find out. And again, talk to Jim about this. We're going to find out about the toughness that Montreal likes to say they have today. Or no, I'm sorry, tomorrow. Down 3-0. We're going to find out whether they have that locker room toughness that they think they have. So we'll see. And with that, we'll bring in from the Last Word on Hockey, our hockey guru, Jim Beringer. Oh, got you on a small screen there. Good morning, Jim. How are you?
Good, Keith. How you doing today? Happy 4th of July to everybody out there. Sunday. So yeah, no, we're here back for our regular spot here on a Sunday. And we'll talk about a couple of things. You know, I heard you talking about the toughness about Montreal as they came in, but I don't know if there's any more comments out there that we can discuss that were being thrown around this morning in regards to the Stanley Cup final. I'm
sure Carlos will have plenty here.
Yeah, he probably.
As I talked about, Jim and I got started, what to me, the turning point in this series, and you know, you obviously watch these things with a little different eye than I do, but as I'm watching game 2, and Montreal is basically dominating that game on the road, outshot them 2-1, right?
Yep.
And Vasilevsky, I always say his name right, wrong. I know that. Vasilevsky, how'd I do?
Vasilevsky's his name, but you got close.
Damn it. I think I said Vasilevsky once, and I thought I was wrong. Anyway, 42 saves. Tremendous, but that's a miss. That is such a missed opportunity for Montreal, and it's obviously, to me, it's a turning point in the series when you could have won that game on the road.
I mean, you look to game 2, right? And you're going to say, and I agree, the turning point in this series is game 2 for sure. I mean, obviously Montreal, didn't play great in game 1. Tampa dominated, but Tampa Bay did not play their best game in game 2, and Montreal outplayed them, and they should have had a better fate. But the turning point of the game and the series was with 0.3 seconds left, Blake Coleman scores. The puck in the neutral zone has to get deep. You're 1-1. You went down 1-0. You worked all the way back to score, make it 1-1. Nick Suzuki gets a fluke power play goal. Goes in. You're continuing to dominate. Vasilevsky is unreal. Making save after save after save. The problem in the prior 3 series, the Canadians can make mistakes and they weren't paying for it. The teams didn't make them pay. You make 1 or 2 mistakes against the Tampa Bay Lightning, it's in the back of your net.
Yeah.
And granted, it's a highlight reel goal, Coleman diving for everything. But that can't happen. The pucks, you got to know the time. The way the breakout was, and I have it on Full Press Hockey, and I'll post it on your thing.
Sure, do please.
The puck at when they're breaking out, Chirac goes to Weber, and then Weber's trying to go to Deneau, but Deneau's looking backwards. He's not looking at you for the puck. You got to just either ice it or send it across and get it chipped in. And then the clock runs out, and now it's 1-1 going in the third period. Instead, Tampa Bay scores. It's 2-1. Then a bad read with Edmondson and Petrie. It's 3-1, and the series is different. And then in Game 3, Tampa Bay dominated. Carey Price did not have his best game in Game 3, and he even said it after Game 3. He needs to be better. Well, the problem is now you got to win 4 games straight against the Tampa Bay Lightning and Andrei Vasilevsky. And Vasilevsky's 11-0 against the Canadians dating back to the regular season when they played in the regular season. This is a daunting task for this team, and it's going to be a very, very tough uphill climb. Do I think they get 1 tomorrow night? Maybe, but I think the series is over tomorrow night.
Yeah, you do think they'll go out in 4?
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. I thought this was going to be a better series. I know you did. You and I both talked about the fact that we thought the Conn Smythe winner would probably be Vasilevsky or Price, and obviously we know where that stands right now. I mean, Price has struggled, but is it his fault? Is it the defense's fault, or is it a combination of both?
I mean, look, Price has not played his best series. He's coming back to earth. Carey Price in the first 3 rounds was the reason they won those rounds. But their defense has played a lot, and you could see that the Canadians are tired. They played, I think, 25 games in 30-something days to close the end of the regular season. They've been playing the same 4 guys for how many minutes throughout how many games. They've done that, and you could see those top 4 guys are tired. They don't have a third pair that they really can rely on. I mean, you look over at Tampa and Sergachev and David Savard. That's a top pair on any other team. The Lightning are just too deep. They're the best team in the playoffs. I thought Montreal would play a lot better than they did, and they haven't. And it's unfortunate because, you look at Game 3, Ruda scores a minute 57 in, and then Perry takes a bad penalty, and it's 2-0 before the drop of the hat. And the problem is you just can't be playing. You can't keep playing from behind against Tampa Bay. Montreal plays better when they have the lead, and they are not playing with the lead. And you get within 1, but then Tampa goes for the. See, that's the difference between a lot of these other teams. Montreal could come back when they were down 2-1 against another team. Tampa Bay doesn't sit back; they just want more. And that's what they did in Game 3. They just kept coming more. Anytime Montreal made it close, forget it. They went back and they won another goal. And Tampa's just too deep. Look, Tyler Johnson. Tampa's got 6 lines. It's true, they do. Tyler Johnson, throw it back. He's throwing it back to 2015. This is the unforgotten guy this year. Don't forget, Nikita Kucherov was out for the whole season. Everybody's going to make a big deal about $18 million over the salary cap, this, that, and the other thing. Well, guess what? They did what any other team would do within the guidelines of the rules, and until the owners and the players decide to change the loophole, it's going to happen. And it may happen again next year because Victor Hedman is not 100%, and he may have surgery that keeps him out for most of the regular season. So, I mean, they're playing within the rule book, and that's what they're doing. Tyler Johnson had 2 goals, probably his best game as a Lightning. He's been in the lineup the whole year. He was put on waivers. Yeah, he was put on waivers. But he's played his role. John Cooper moved in the center, and he had his best game. And that's the way he's going to go out because he's probably going to Seattle. And It's a shame. But guess what? They're winning within their window, and that's what they're going to do. So Tampa's just too deep. Montreal is just running out of steam. It's a nice story, but Tampa's just the better team.
Yeah, and again, we know the problems the Canadian teams all had later in the season than we had here in the U.S. because COVID was still running rampant up there, and it caused them to play so many games in such a short period of time. The format itself, I mean, Carlos has talked about one of the things, and congratulations to Carlos. He called this a 4-game sweep. So if that happens, good, Carlos, I'll give you the kudos. Now, he also talked about one of the fact, and you and I talked about this early on, would the fact that these Canadian teams had not played the U.S. teams have any effect going through the playoffs? And it really didn't appear it did until now. Do you think it had a factor or not?
I mean, I think it had somewhat of a factor. I mean, look, Montreal, you could see he's running out of steam a little bit, playing so many games in so many days. But don't forget, they had a little bit of a break, too, between the end of the regular season and the North Division starting. They had about 7 days off to get reset. And then they had time off between they didn't have really time off between the Winnipeg and Toronto series, but they had a little bit of more time off between the Winnipeg and Vegas series, the Canadians did. Yeah. So they had time to get their guys back, but Tampa has played in, like, the big narrative has been the North Division is the weakest division, and all that. Tampa probably played outside the East Division. Tampa probably, well, Carlos, I'm going to say for what they did, what they had to do, this is what they had to do. They had to do it by geographical region. They had to play, all these back-to-backs. This is what they had to do to get a season in. And I give them credit for doing that, and I gave Kerry Bettman credit for getting the bubble. Speaking of, it's going to be a shame if Tampa Bay wins tomorrow night. It's going to be like the bubble all over again, where they won't have their family there to celebrate. So if they win, it's going to be a shame that they don't have the family there to celebrate, because that's like a big thing for everybody. So maybe if they lose and they go back to Tampa. Now here's the funny thing: Game 5 may not be Wednesday. If Hurricane Ella is coming through Tampa, they may have to push the game back. So so that could be some interesting things there. But as far as Tampa is just so good. I mean, they played in the Central Division this year. Look at the teams they went through. They had to play Florida. They had to play.
Bless you, wherever that was.
Yeah, just my neighbor. Yeah. So they had to play Florida, Carolina, Dallas. Just go through the list of teams they had to go through, and they had to play those same teams in the playoffs. They were playoff ready, and they finished third in the division without Nikita Kucherov. Think about that. So just run down, I'm gonna try to find the divisions real quick to see who else was in there, because it's been a while since I actually looked at the division standings.
The old setup.
The old setup for. So here we go. So they played. So Nashville was in there. Chicago, Detroit, Columbus. I mean, look, outside of Columbus and Detroit, Chicago was there to the end. Dallas was playing hard. Nashville put on a run. So and we talked about the East being the toughest with Pittsburgh, Washington, Boston, the New York teams, Philly, and Buffalo and the Devils were the weakest. Each team had a weak division. I don't want to hear about the narrative about the North was being weak, because entering the season, when I was on this show and on other shows, Montreal and Toronto was supposed to be 1-2.
Yeah.
Colorado, Vegas was 1-2. Well, Montreal beat Vegas. They beat Toronto. Tampa beat the teams they were supposed to beat. Nobody expected them to beat Florida. Well, except I did, because, Florida hasn't proven anything in the first round since 1996. So Tampa's just too good, and they are in their window to win now, and they'll be the second team in the salary cap era to go back to back. The Pittsburgh Penguins did it in 2016 and 17, and if there's a sweep, it'll be the first sweep since 1998. And this Tampa team reminds me a lot of those 1990s Detroit Red Wings teams that went through a lot of pain at the beginning and then found their stride.
I got to tell you, even with Montreal's struggles here this past week, I can't really fault them. I mean, again, I'm not an excuse maker for professional sports players, whether it's hockey or baseball, football. You get paid to deal with whatever circumstances are thrown in front of you. But with the things that Montreal had to get through today, with the COVID situation, with the coaching situation, and the lack of depth, I think they've done a great job to get where they are, and they have no reason to hang their heads. I mean, it's a good team they're losing to, and they don't have a reason to hang their heads.
I mean, look, Tampa was favored to repeat before the season started and before Kucherov was announced that, he was going to have season-ending surgery and come back in the playoffs. And once he came back, they were the team to beat because Kucherov, 32 points in how many games they played? Like, I don't know, 16 or however they played. He's got 32 points in this postseason, and a lot of guys didn't have 32 points in 56 games. So think about that.
Yeah, good point.
I mean, Kucherov is a monster. So, and he adds a different dynamic to this team. So it's crazy that he's done this in the playoffs, and most players didn't even get 32 points in the regular season. But exactly, you can't make excuses. Montreal's here for a reason. They beat the teams they had to beat. It's a shame they're going to go out, but it just you look at the comparisons between Tampa and teams they played and the sweeps that we saw in the 90s from 95 through 98. Now, the Devils won in 95 was, no one really expected it. They thought Detroit would be the one sweeping New Jersey out of the playoffs. But, in 96 and 96, 97, and 98, those sweeps were pretty bad. I mean, Colorado and Florida had no business there. It was like Montreal and the Washington Capitals in 98, they just hung on. And you look at it, you go to game 2 in 98 against the Washington and Detroit. Washington was in the game. They had the lead. If, Chris Simon doesn't miss the open net, the series is tied at 1-1, but Detroit comes back, wins the game, and then it wins it in 4 straight. So, again, little things like that you see you make those little comparisons. And like we said in game 2, if you go to the third period tied 1-1, all it takes is 1 goal to win. But instead, you're down 2-1. So
let's back up and piggyback off of Brett Cloutier. Brett Cloutier, by the way, is an ex hockey player, played in the Devils organization and got as high as high as you can get without getting to the Devils. So he was a really good player, knows the game. But Carlos also made a point when we were talking about some of the, I'm trying to find the comment now. Hold on, back up. It was about the need to change free agency and the injury rules. I mean, our team's able to manipulate the salary cap, with the injury rules and whatnot, as Brett just mentioned and Carlos has kind of alluded to before. And do changes need to be made to free agency and some of those?
I mean, free agency is free agency. It's in the collective bargaining agreement. Normally, July 1st is free agency, and they've changed a little bit of the free agency rules where teams can meet prior to July 1st now. And they can't, really announce the deals till then. They before you couldn't do it because it was called tampering, and then you had to wait till midnight on July 1st. Now a free agent can meet with other teams. He just can't sign a deal till July 1. As far as the circumventing of the salary cap, well, it's not circumvention if it's in the collective bargaining agreement. There's a loophole. There's a loophole on long-term IR, and go back to Chicago Blackhawks in 2015. Everybody wants to point to the Tampa Bay Lightning and call them cheaters. Well, guess what? Stan Bowman was praised for what he did in 2015. Patrick Kane was hurt for the last 20 games of the season. He goes on an LTIR, returns in the playoffs, and they pick up 3 guys equivalent to his salary. And they said, "Oh, Blackhawk's a genius." What? Julian Brisebois isn't a genius? He did what was in the collective bargaining agreement. Right. There's a loophole. Until the owners and players close the loophole, it's going to happen. Well, Tampa wasn't the only team over the salary cap.
Yeah.
The Islanders were over the salary cap. Vegas was over the salary cap. Toronto was over the salary cap. Montreal's over the salary cap. Until they put a salary cap in effect for the playoffs, this stuff's going to happen. They have to close the loophole. And until they do it, this is going to happen. And since the CBA was agreed to, it's still going to be in there.
Why did both sides want that? I mean, I don't think there's another major sport that the salary cap works that way, where you can just remove an injured guy's, contract from the cap. I know why it makes sense for teams, I guess, but I don't know why the players. I don't know.
Well, you get paid. You get paid if you're on LTIR, and you still get your money. Like, this team still pays you.
So did NFL players and the NL.
Exactly. I think it was just something. I think it's just a loophole in the collective bargaining agreement with long-term injury reserve, because you have to have X amount of dollars if you have X amount of dollars in contract, you can put X amount of players on long-term IR. It's semantics with the and it's a lot of language with the collective bargaining agreement that I could like just send you stuff and it's like lawyer language that they have. So me explaining it on the air is not ideal. It's not great talk, but and during when there's collective bargaining agreement talks, it makes sense. But yeah, it's just a little loophole. I mean, every sport probably has little loopholes that owners and stuff teams take advantage of.
Well, before we let you go today, let's talk about a couple other quick things that I wanted to touch on.
I just want to touch on Brett's point real quick. What he said, Kucherov was healthy in February.
Yeah,
he was traveling with the team later in the year. They had him practicing and stuff with the team, and he was doing stuff on his own. But he wasn't really cleared to play until the playoffs. And even though he's with the team, many people thought he was going to come earlier, but they decided that that it was best for him to wait to the playoffs. Well, don't forget, Carlos, there was no salary cap in the 1990s.
Yeah, that's a different story.
That's why their salary cap was put in, because they wanted to get the small market and large market teams on an even playing field. The Rangers were $100 million. Same with Detroit. They were spending $100 million every year on salaries. It was a different game, hence why they had to put the salary cap in.
These things, the rules are what they are, as you said. Once these things are negotiated in the bargaining agreements, you're stuck with them until there's a new bargaining agreement. So,
exactly.
And teams, whatever rules you put in, again, it doesn't matter what sport we talk about, teams find a way to manipulate their way around it. It's just so they made it easy in this case, but that is what it is. Listen, outside of the Stanley Cup playoffs, before we finish up, you're going to call it sweep in 4, right? You'd say Montreal's not going to have any chance to face it a little bit.
As one of the guys I listened to yesterday said, he ain't booking his hotel to Tampa. So I unless it's a shame that they're not going to win a game, and that the cup's going to be presented in Montreal for like the third time ever. It'll be won on Montreal ice. The last time was 1989 when Lanny McDonald had the famous goal to win it on the Forum. But yeah, if Tampa don't win on Monday night, then
I'm not sure which organization he's talking about now, but I didn't want to show that one to you.
But if they don't win it Monday night, they're going to win it in Game 5. By the time we talk next week, the Tampa Bay Lightning will be Stanley Cup champions.
I can't disagree with you. So a couple other quick points.
Bill, I got my hat at a store. It's called Target.
There you go, Bill. Not hard to find. Nope. Maybe you might want a signed one though. Can he send it?
We'll send it to me. I'll sign it for him.
All right, we'll get you Jim's address, and you can send it to him, Bill. We won't put it out all over the air. We don't want him getting all this hate mail.
No. Especially from Carlos.
Carlos's hate mail coming in. I know that.
We love Carlos. We
do love Carlos. He's a great loyal fan. Thank you, Carlos.
He is Carlos. Thanks, Carlos.
The Coyotes with a new coach. I'll butcher his name.
Andre Tournier. Yeah.
Oh, close. Is this a significant move to get the Coyotes heading in the right direction?
I mean, look, Andre Tournier just won a World Junior gold medal with Team Canada, a team that really wasn't picked to win gold. I mean, Canada's always win to pick gold, but they were on the fourth spot, and he does a great job. The problem with the Coyotes is it's always been the ownership. Like, it's such a mess there. I mean, Bill Armstrong, give him credit. He's trying to get everything settled in, but they got to make some moves. Oliver Ekman-Larsson may be on the way out. He may be going to Boston or Vancouver. Those were the two teams last year. He may go someplace else. What are they going to do with Phil Kessel? Connor Garland is their guy right now. Jacob Chikrin on the back end. But I think he can get them playing a style and maybe be there longer than a couple of years. I mean, they everybody wants to win now, but they need a coach, there for a long time. And then as well as, look, the Coyotes are going to move to the Central Division next year when everything realigns, when Seattle comes in. So they won't have to deal with, the travel will be a little bit easier, but the teams are going to be harder. It's a shame Arizona hasn't been able the USA beat Canada.
Brett wants to be. He's from Canada. He wants to be a U.S. citizen, though. He really does. We're turning him into an ugly American very slowly.
There you go. But, it's going to be interesting to see what the Coyotes do this year and how they, what kind of moves they make in the offseason. I know Bill Armstrong's trying to, what happened before with the former general manager. He needs to reset a bunch of things there, and he's got to play. He's got to put the pieces in that he believes can help Andre Tournier be the best coach in the National Hockey League. It's a shame that ever since their run in the '90s, the Coyotes have not been the same team. Like I said, it's the ownership has been an issue, and everybody wants them to move, and it's been Gary Bettman's pet project to keep them in Arizona. But hey, you know what? If they can be successful, that's great. The problem is, being a playoff team in a tough division where only 4 or 5 teams make it, you have to have consistency, and the Coyotes are just a couple years away from doing that. So maybe this coach can help them get over that hump.
One last question for you. With the Olympics right around the corner, well, the Summer Olympics are right around the corner here, and 22, we have the Winter Olympics. What's the status on the NHL players participating? Any word on that?
So last Monday, Gary Bettman had his prior to Game 1 conference that he does, State of the Union NHL thing, and that was a question he was asked about the Olympics. Bill and Gary Bettman both talked about it. Even though the agreement is in place with the players to go to the Olympics, they don't have an agreement yet with the IOC or the IIHF on how certain things are going to be done in the Olympics, and the timeline for that is dwindling. Personally, in my opinion, and some of the guys I've talked to say they don't want to go to China. Reasons being COVID and all that stuff, and we're not going to try to get into that kind of discussion here. But
you have to interrupt the season to do it, right?
Exactly. They're going to have to interrupt the season. Now the All-Star game's back. They have the schedule's ready to come out. They have 2 schedules. They have one with the Olympic break in it and one with no Olympic break and just the All-Star break. If this is not announced by the end of July, they are not going. And the problem is the IOC still has to determine whether some Olympics are probably going to go on, but then are they going to move the Winter Olympics? What's going to happen there? So there's so many factors involved. Personally, if it's me, I know everybody wants the best players in the world to play.
Yeah.
2022 is not the year to do it.
Yeah.
After what's going on.
There's questions. I can't speak for Canada, obviously, but if the games remain in Beijing, there's questions whether the U.S. will even participate. I'm sure we won't get into that here either. But
I know of talking to some people up in Canada, they may not go either. So again, that's a different discussion for a different time.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, we'll look at that as we get closer. Carlos is right. Travel, season, health, too much effort.
And they want to start the season October 12th. So now you have a shorter off season to get ready, especially these teams now playing into July. You have a shorter off season. You're going to play 82 games plus playoffs to get this calendar back on track. And you're going to play more hockey.
One last thing before we go, because I don't want to let Brett think I missed him out, but he does say Canada didn't win. USA won the June.
That's right. Yeah. USA won this year. USA won this year. But Andre Tournier did win. Andre Tournier did win won a medal at the World Juniors. I do remember that. I'm sorry, Brett. They did win. I forgot USA won that night because I was covering the series, so I did remember. But it was believed the year prior that they did win, that they weren't expected to win, and Canada won gold this year at the World Championships. So that's probably what I was thinking. But yeah, no, Nate Lehman and Team USA played really well. It was a really fun game to watch. A late night winner. A lot of fun hockey. Zegras and Turcotte and that crop of products. But yes, I did mess that one up. But yes, because I was watching the game, but it was because it was late and I was out in Edmonton. So and it was 6 months ago. So. But
it wasn't long ago, right? So
yeah, it was a while ago. It was prior to the season starting. So. That was the first taste of hockey we had in a while with the World Juniors. So yes, Team USA did win, represent, and Canada, finished second. But but he is a good coach, Tournier. So, The Coyotes will be fine, yes, and Team USA will be the defending champions heading into the World Juniors when they're back at Edmonton and Red Deer next year. They'll get the Oilers locker room.
Well, there you go. Excellent. So listen, Jim, we'll have you in next week. Could kind of wrap up the season and look ahead to the off season anyway, and we'll go from there. Your insight is always appreciated, and I wish we were talking about a better series at this point, but unfortunately these things happen in sports, and we'll move on. And you have a great 4th of July. I hope it's nicer where you are than where I am right now. So
yeah, thanks, Keith. I appreciate that. You as well. Hope you have a great 4th of July. Thanks for the correction this morning on Team USA. Carlos, thank you. Appreciate it. It's good. I wish the series was better. I agree, because it's always better when the final is better. Unfortunately, we're not getting a good final. But yes, free agency and expansion draft and drafts are right around the corner. Minnesota's just signed Joel Edmondson Eck for an 8-year deal. Got new contracts are coming in. Victor Arvidsson was traded to LA, so we could break down that stuff next week as well, and talk about the final with the Lightning most likely lifting the Stanley Cup either Monday night or in Game 5, because
who knows where the cup will even be by the time we talk next. So
exactly. So
be anywhere.
Exactly, it could be anywhere. Well, it'll probably still be in Tampa because of the party that they're going to have.
That's true. All right, Jim. Thank you. We'll chat again next week, and you enjoy your the rest of your holiday weekend.
You too. Have a good day.
All right. Thanks again. Great job by Jim Beringer. Always brings it. Little mistake on Canada. As you know, Brett, we probably always assume the Canadians are going to beat the U.S., unlike the Russians beating Canada. Oh, I don't want to open up that can of worms. We got to move on from hockey, because some of my regulars are not as excited about hockey as the rest of us. But as you can see, guys, I'm sorry, but we do have a fairly strong hockey contingency. And by the way, the hockey groups I share to eat this stuff up. We get tons of views from the hockey guys. So anyway, we will move on to more American sports. Let me just put this up. It's an inside joke with Brett and I and the Russians. Good point. Actually, it's funny. I was going to say that Brett went before Jim left, that if the cup gets back to Tampa Bay, don't invite Tom Brady to the party. He'd throw it in the ocean. Jim does a great job, just not my number one sport. No, I get it, Drew. I get it. It's not everybody's. I'm more of a fair weather fan. Having Jim on has kept me more involved in the sport than when the Rangers are not good. But I love it, and we do get a ton of people that are interested in it. So anyway, let's move off the NHL and their poor performance, and we'll skip the baseball. We'll skip the NBA for the moment, even though it's more relevant probably than Major League Baseball. But I got a lot to talk about with Major League Baseball. We'll look at the standings here a little bit. We're going to talk about the putrid effort by the Yankees recently. We're going to talk about the All-Stars. We'll talk about Trevor Bauer a little bit, and I'll try to keep up with your guys' comments, I promise. So listen, let's take a quick run through the standings, and we'll probably stop and talk a little bit as I go through them. So the American League East, the Red Sox continue to surprise as Tampa Bay has gone on a 5-game losing streak, and they have been very streaky this year. A lot of teams have been. But the Red Sox have played pretty steady. And listen, I picked them to finish last, as Drew can remember, and probably the rest of you guys do. Kenny says, Keith didn't make it Saturday, Kenny. Keith was having a bit of a flare-up from a situation that he has, probably not helped by the night before, but it was not a drinking issue. We're going to talk about Cashman and Boone in a second as well. Let me just catch up with some of these. Drew, were you at the Triangle Diner waiting for baseball? Not sure what that is. Keith unfortunately was unable to. Rick just home cleaning up. All right, guys, here we are. Back to the American League East. Red Sox surprised the crap out of me still. I said last week, and I've said all along, 4th of July is a point where you start to realize teams are either good or really bad, and we have a really good feel for who they are. The Red Sox are pretty good. They need some more pitching. And they need some more, I don't know. I think their offense is probably fine. They did. I was surprised when they traded away some of the parts that they traded away during the offseason. But Bogarts is playing great. They're getting great effort from Devers, obviously. They're just a solid offensive team. And Cora is a great manager. You can't discount the fact that this team probably doesn't have as good a team as they had last year, and they're better. On paper, it would not look as good. Hence why I picked them to finish last. As I said, the Rays have lost 5 in a row now, and they've fallen 4.5 games behind the Red Sox. The Blue Jays up and down. They have won 2 in a row. They can't get it together. They're 5 games over, 7.5 games out. Probably in decent shape in the wild card, which I'm not getting excited about the wild card comments now. The Orioles are the Orioles. We'll concentrate on the Yankees for the moment. Yankees are 41-40. 9.5 games out of first. And I know you'll tell me they're only 6 games out of wild card. I don't care. This team, they come back and they can make the wild card and whatever. They're not built to win. Upper management is, and I'm going to talk about things I know I've talked about, and it'll be a bit repetitive. I'm going to have a little bit of new information here. Some stuff I brought up with Kevin Kernan, and he actually agreed with me. I know Carlos does not agree with me. Carlos agrees with me, I believe, not to speak for him, and a little text he and I had going back and forth last night. Brian Cashman is the main culprit here, guys. Year after year, he puts together horrendous baseball teams. Fundamental baseball teams. Do they win games? They win 95. They win 100 games a regular season. Yeah, because you got to beat up on the Orioles and you get to beat up on the dregs of the league and the Red Sox last year. But you get to the playoffs and they don't have enough pitching. The bullpen implodes. There's no situational hitting. We're still swinging for the fences. We don't move guys around. And now this year, the base running has become a huge issue. That's not all on Cashman. That's on Boone, too. I'm not excusing Aaron Boone in this at all, and I'll get to Aaron Boone in a minute. But Brian Cashman put together a team this year. I promise you I'll get to your comments, guys. Brian Cashman put the game and he's done this year after year. He goes out and signs pitchers, but he always signs somebody that's a risk. The last guy I can remember him signing, Garrett Cole was not injury risk, but we got Cole, we got Tanaka. And you look at all the other signings that he's had that I can remember, and all of them have some kind of risk, either injury risk or performance risk. A.J. Happ, I'm tired of hearing guys eat. Oh, he's an innings eater. Well, if the innings are crap, who cares? I don't want him out there. And now you sign guys like Corey Kluber and Talaman. Both injury risk. Kluber pitched great. But it was likely, not 100% certain, but it was likely he was going to break down at some point. And we do this year after year. This isn't 1 year. I keep having this argument. I got onto with Jack on the Mac and Jack show Friday, and he's telling me Brian Cashman isn't at fault. The Yankees are in contention year after year. He's absolutely right. Yankees have been to 1 World Series. 1. They did win it. Since 2003. How many World Series have the Red Sox won since 2003? How about the Giants? The Astros, the Dodgers. Forget about 1. I'm talking about getting to them. 20 years? I can remember back in 76, the Yankees hadn't been there in 12 years, and that was the end of the world. Now we've been there once in 20 years, almost 18 years. God, guys, it's Brian Cashman's a problem. Has to go. Aaron Boone. Oh, by the way, let me get off Cash. I don't want to get off Cashman yet. Cashman then this week has the audacity, and I do not, by the way, give the players a pass. The players have got to step up and play better. It's on them to play better and get themselves better. Coaches need to help. But play smart baseball. But he calls out the players. Never called himself out, saying, I did a bad job of putting together a starting pitching staff. Again, I got a shortstop who's really a second baseman. I got a first baseman who's going to be hurt all the time. I got a DH I signed for a contract that I'll never be able to get rid of, and he can't play the outfield, and he clogs up the lineup as a DH, and then he's hurt. A third of the time. That might be an exaggeration, but they knew what they were getting when they signed Stan. I don't know that he played more than 120 games 2 times in his career with the Marlins. What else? The outfield depth. The fact that this team, the outfield depth, let me touch on that. Gardy? I love Gardy. Can't play anymore. They should have kept Talkman. Productive left-handed bat. Left-handed bat. This team is so righty dominated in Yankee Stadium. Brian. Horrible. Let me catch up on some comments here real quick. I'm way behind here. Let's see. Yankees are streaky on losing. Dave, they're just awful. Yankees could lose 162 and I would root for it. You wouldn't root for them, Kenny, or you would? Yeah, I don't think Lacrastro's their pickup savior yet all, Drew. He does give them some outfield depth. He's got some speed. He's versatile in the outfield, but he's not a hitter. Yankees keep playing the way they want to make the wild card. I agree. They're 6 games behind the wild card, but I don't even want to talk about that, to be honest with you, Dave, because getting to the playoffs is not the end-all, be-all for the Yankees. Getting to the World Series is. Now, maybe I'm spoiled and I don't really care, but it's not just being a spoiled Yankee fan. One World Series since 2003. Look at some of the teams that have been there multiple times, and we haven't. The Phillies. Oh, gosh. Kevin Kernan had a great point. The Marlins, since 2003, the Marlins have won the same number of World Series as the Yankees. That's kind of says it all. What's Carlos say here? Hey, leave the Orioles. That's Kenny. Leave the Orioles alone. There's not much to talk about. That's the business side. I'm not sure what we're talking about there, Carlos, so you can elaborate when I get down here further if you want. When do I think Cashman says he holds the players accountable? What do you think? Oh, there, I just said that. I agree. I think he's not wrong. The players are accountable, but so are the coaches, and so is Brian Cashman. Hal Steinbrenner came out and gave them a vote of confidence. Not a strong one, but he puts it on the players too. Guys, I understand. The players played, and you don't fire all the players. You can't. You might see some trades you didn't think you'd see a few months ago if things don't straighten out here quickly. And maybe it's too late now. They lose this first game, they're going to be 500 going into a nationally televised game with the Mets tonight. That's unbelievable. Didn't he box Rocky? I think, look, that was Ledoux. Scott Ledoux, by the way. The talent went short. I agree. And not deep. You talk about depth before in hockey. It's important in Major League Baseball. You play 162 games. You need depth. Yankees don't have it. Plus the guy's playing out of position. It's all over the league. It's not all over the league, but you have. I'm not talking about superstars sitting on their bench, Carlos, but there are productive Major League players throughout some of these teams that are doing better. Look at the White Sox. The White Sox have overcome 2 major injuries to their better players. They're leading their division by 6 games. 16 games over 500. I'll get to Trevor Bauer in a bit. Yes, the Mets and Yankees dodged a bullet there. Talent would get worse as kids stop playing baseball. I don't disagree with that comment either, Kenny, and it's probably a topic for a different conversation, and we'll have it. But, kids are not excited by baseball, which is why Rob Manfred, now I'm going to get off on a different tangent, but I'm going to get back to the Yankees in a second, I promise. This is why Rob Manfred is so wrong about his approach. He thinks kids want to see 10 to 8 games and home runs and strikeouts, where it's ruining the game. And kids aren't even getting involved in baseball. Maybe because their parents don't like the game anymore. They don't watch it. Then they don't play Little League, and then whatever. The guys are way overpriced and don't pay up to contracts. Well, we can certainly say that about Stanton. Judge hasn't even got his money yet, and I think there's a decent chance Aaron Judge ends up getting traded. And he's played very well this year, by the way. One guy I have no fault with this year. Maybe he sat out a little much for my liking, but Dave Gaia you're right. Again, that's been the Yankee way. It starts with making the playoffs. Yes, Dave. But the argument I had with Jack on Friday was, so what? I mean, yes, you make the playoffs every year. That's great. That's certainly better than the Orioles. It's better than the Tigers. Well, the Tigers have been to 2 World Series since the Yankees have been in one. So making the playoffs is not awful, but how about we win once in a while? They went from having one of the best minors to them not producing or trade. You know what, Drew? This is a lot like the '80s when the Yankees didn't win. When George everybody loved George, right? George was the end all be all. I love George. Well, he also traded every decent young player he had in that organization and didn't develop hardly anybody. Developed Don Mattingly, Andy Pettitte. Guess what started to happen when you developed the Pettitts and the Jeters and the Canoes, and you started winning. Not a coincidence. I don't know if I want to say Judge needs to go, but I think they're going to see the fact that they can get a lot for him before they have to pay him. And I don't know if I want to pay him the contract he's going to be worth. And look, you can say he's not worth. Again, I don't know if Carlos said that. Producing and worth is different. To me, you're worth whatever somebody's willing to pay you. I don't fault Stanton for him getting his contract. Is he worth the money? Yep, because Brian Cashman was stupid enough to give it to him. He just got out for under one bad contract with A-Rod, and he set himself right up for failure again by Stanton, and he cripples your ability to stay under the cap and have a decent, deep team. Again, you did say worth, so you're worth. You and I and Stanton and Judge and everybody are worth whatever somebody's willing to pay us. If the Mets give me Conforto, if I'm the Mets, give you Conforto, no strings. Well, I'm not trading him for Conforto even up, I can tell you that. I like Conforto. Conforto would be great in Yankee Stadium. But I'm not trading him even up. No way. I got to get more for Judge than that. Just stay away from Cashman. Just to stay away from Cashman. Here's what I think, guys. Let's go to the next step. We talked about Cashman. The players, it's obvious the players need to play better. They know it. Judge had a players meeting the other day, didn't have any effect. They were horrible yesterday against the Mets. Horrible. The fans had to get a rally together to drown out the Let's Go Mets cheers yesterday at Yankee Stadium. Ultimate embarrassment, right? Here's what I think. The Yankees lose 2 today to the Mets. Maybe even a split. I don't know. It depends on how they look and how competitive they are. I will tell you this. If they lose 2 to the Mets, I think Aaron Boone is fired by Tuesday, and maybe Cashman as well. Cashman's been here a long time. He was part of some World Series teams. But I think Aaron Boone and Cashman, if they lose 2 to the Mets today, I think they're both gone. I really do, and I think they should be. I like Aaron Boone. I don't like the excuses he makes for players. I don't like the fact he's not holding guys accountable for and forget about physical effort. Guys just playing bad. I have a bigger problem with them not holding accountable for mental mistakes. Their base running this year, atrocious. We talked about it the other day, how many base runners they've had thrown out on the bases. Third outs made at third base when you're, in a rally late in a game or a rundown. You cannot play baseball that way. The fact that you don't move runners over, the fact that you don't hit away from shifts, those things are coaches' faults. And I think, here's the thing. I will make this other bold prediction, which Carlos hates. That the new Yankee manager, if Aaron Boone gets fired, or when, will be Buck Showalter. He's sitting right there in the studio. Buck has learned a lot in his career. Buck was always, there were a lot of guys who, I talked about this at length with Kevin Kernan on Friday. He did agree with me that Buck would be just what this Yankee team needs, because he will not tolerate that nonsense. And I think Buck's need to control the roster and control this, a lot of that's gone. He would have some good input if he had the right general manager, if he doesn't have Brian Cashman, because Brian Cashman's there pushing the buttons right now. I think Buck Showalter will be the next Yankee manager. I can't speak to the GM. I don't have a lot of insight into who would be the next man up, or woman. But I would love to see Buck Showalter step in that Yankee dugout and get a chance to turn this team around and maybe get some of the Yankee glory he was cheated out of in the 90s. If you remember, Buck was fired after the 1995 season when they lost to the Seattle Mariners in a great ALCS. Great. I'm sorry, not ALCS, division series. They had a good team. Didn't perform as well as they did the year before when there was a strike and it stopped the season while the Yankees were in first place and heading to the playoffs again. But Buck Showalter and Gene Michael, people forget this. There's a comment in here somewhere talking about George. You know when the Yankees got good again after the 80 and early 90s debacles? When George got suspended for the Howie Spira thing. And Gene Michael and both Buck Showalter were basically in charge of rebuilding his team. And they did it. And the team that Joe Torre was, God bless Joe Torre. Great manager, did a great job with the Yankees. Sometimes his handling of bullpens worried me. But the man won four World Series. Did a great job. But Buck could have been the guy. A little known story for you guys. Some of you might know. George fired Buck, hired Joe Torre, and 5 or 6 days later, he's calling Buck and trying to get him to come back. Now, what he was going to do with 2 managers, I don't know. But this is classic George. Now, you can't say he made a mistake because the team went on to win 4 World Series, but you also can't tell me they wouldn't have done the same thing with Buck Showalter. And I hope Buck gets his chance at redemption. Let's go back here. Hold on. We got a lot of comments. Where did I leave off? Oh, wow. We got a lot to catch up on. That's all over the link. We did that. We did this. We did that. All right. If I missed something, I apologize. But I'm going to start here. Oh, boy. I guess I need to go back that far. All right. We'll stay here. The old man would have traded most of these guys and fired all the middle management. Now, again, George Steinbrenner would not save this team. It would be good that he fired the manager and the general manager. But George wouldn't fire this team because George can't keep his hands off the team. As I just explained to you earlier, the Yankees did not get back to relevancy, much less being competitive, until George was removed from day-to-day contact with the team in the early 90s by Fay Vincent when he suspended him over the Howard Spira thing. It was Gene Michael and Buck Showalter who rebuilt this organization. Well, hell knows what he has. Why would he fire anyone? Oh, you know what? It may go farther. Kevin Kernan mentioned it may be time for Hal to sell the team. If he's not going to care about winning, he might as well sell the team. All he cares about is staying under their salary cap. Do I remember Dave Righetti throwing a no-hitter on the 4th of July? Very, very well. Talked about that with Kevin. And you know what? And it's one of the things that gets lost today. We don't remember these games. We're not going to remember them because of some of the stupid rules that are in there today. We don't remember all these individual accomplishments the way we used to. One of the great games I can remember watching, especially on the 4th of July, was Dave Righetti throwing a no-hitter on the 4th of July in Yankee Stadium, and I remember the last out was Wade Boggs. Made me very happy. Analytics running that team. Again, exactly what I said, Carlos. Cashman's running the show and telling Boone what to do, and here's your game plan. Here's your script. But again, Aaron Boone still has input into guys' fundamental play. Okay? Analytics ruining baseball. Red Sox, fewer star, more cohesion, less my stats, more good of the team. I agree 100%, Drew. 100%. As much as it pains me to compliment the Red Sox, they've done a great job of playing as a team. Doing the little things that help teams win that not enough teams in baseball do today. This isn't just a Yankee problem. It's an epidemic across Major League Baseball. And core is a big part of that. My prediction. I think I lost Carlos's. Oh, wait a minute. What do we got here? My prediction. Can you ever, Drew? It's called Billy Ball. You know what? Actually, here's what I said for a long time. And that's why I like Buck Showalter. Buck Showalter's a fundamental guy. He's a little like Billy Ball. Not that I'm really putting, you know what? Buck does, in my mind, measure up to a guy like Billy Martin. He does. Turns teams around. Doesn't really win the big one. Billy only won one World Series, don't forget. As great as he was. Carlos, the prediction's in here somewhere. Cashman goes to Jim Duquette in the offseason. I'm not sure. Maybe. I really like both Duquettes. I think they've done a great job. Bring in Donnie Baseball. I don't think Donnie. Look, I love Donnie. I was upset when Joe Girardi got the job over Donnie Baseball. Whenever he got it. What year was it? 2005. Can't remember. But it's probably best that Donnie didn't get it. I don't know that Donnie's built for managing in New York. Don't think Buck is done, but I understand the sentiment. I just can't see Don Mattingly managing. I wish maybe. He's done a great job in Miami with a horrible resources. Joe Girardi can go wherever he wants. I'm not a big Joe Girardi fan. I never was. We talked about this last week when Jamie Paggs was in the room and commenting a lot about the Phillies. Phillies got more talent than being 39-41. Joe's done a horrible job, and they got a bad bullpen anyway, but he's done a horrible job managing the pitching staff. Joe is just too tight, and Joe manages by the book too much. And you know what? Maybe he goes to the Marlins. He was very successful there before Loria fired him after winning the Manager of the Year. That looks like a good setup. Which one? I guess you're talking about those three things happening, Carlos. I'd be okay if Donnie came here. I just don't know how he's going to manage in New York. I mean, they were all over him in L.A. And he had teams that won divisions, but they were all over him. Every day they picked apart his performance as a manager before they picked apart the players. Red Sox aren't doomed. They could fall back. I've been saying all along, but now we're at the 4th of July. They're 20 games over 500. The chances of them falling apart now are much less than they were a month ago. Harper needs to go. I don't know what the deal is with Bryce Harper. I really don't. So, guys, now we've talked about the Cashman. We've talked about the manager. I really think if the Yankees want to find a way to light a fire under this team right now, Carlos, right now, I'm not talking about next year. I'm talking about this happens now. Buck Showalter can light a fire. He's not going to stand for this crap. He's not going to be Aaron Boone and excuse away these players' performances in every post-game press conference. Start ripping into guys. You know, call guys out for what they are. 2008, wow. I can't keep track of years, man. Especially as the last couple. Seems longer ago. Yeah, you're right, though. Now that I think about it, it was 1 year, 2008. In fact, they may not have made the playoffs in 2008. Not positive, but they won the World Series in 2009. Girardi's only claim to fame. Harper doesn't like Philly. That's okay. Send him to Oakland. Oakland's not paying him. Pay attention to the way Oakland runs their organization. They're not paying Bryce Harper. That's for damn sure. Yeah, well, that's another different story entirely, Kenny. Right? I'm not going to go down this road too far. But that's life in general now. I can't call out somebody without them crying. I got to give them a hurt feelings report, to fill out. And I don't get – I'm just a guy who does not get oh, God, what's the word I'm looking for? Isn't this terrible? I guess Prevagen is not working today. Oh, whatever. I can't really think of what I'm trying to say. Isn't that terrible? But you cannot. They'll be offended. Oh, offended. There you go. Sorry, that's such a hard word to remember. Everybody gets offended over everything. I hardly get offended over anything at all except people who are offended by everything. Yeah, done if you can. Nah, not empathy. I have no empathy for these guys at all. None. All right, let's move off the Yankees for a bit. Huge series. I'm telling you right now, Aaron Boone, his Yankee career is on the line tonight. I bet I'm a Boone fan. Yeah, well, there's that, too. The Yankees did do it with Stanton, and when they got him back in the lineup, he played a little better. I'm not saying he played great, but he played a little better. Another guy I'd trade. Here's the thing. We don't have a shortstop. We don't have a reliable catcher. Sanchez has played better recently, but if you think 240 and 20 home runs for the year is going to get it done with poor defense. All right, Carlos, we got another bet. I don't remember our other bet. You got to remind me. I don't even remember what it was. Was it Thibodeau winning a championship before he gets fired? Who's walking away from my house here? Interesting. Sorry, distracted. That might have been it. I don't think Boone stays. But you mean through the year, Carlos, or through next year? You've already said he probably gets fired. Yeah, Sanchez has hit better, and the rest still sucks. I did say that, and he brought his average up to 240. But again, he's still I don't see enough good situational at bats. Like I don't see. All right, Mac Jones over Cam. I forgot. That's a story for another conversation too. So. Oh, Carlos, I'll be having another beer party. All right, let's look around the rest of the league a little bit, shall we? Cover the East. We covered the Central. We didn't cover the Central. Chicago White Sox still leading 48 with 49 and 33. 16 games over. Not playing super baseball, but playing good baseball. Only the one little eruption issue between the team and La Russa. If they don't implode because of that situation, this team is the best team in the American League. The Indians have fallen 6 games behind after going 2-8 this week, losing 5 in a row after surprising me a lot. You need to drive up to collect your bet and meet everyone. Agreed. White Sox keep finding. Yeah, and that's what we talked about, right, Drew? When we talked about the Yankees. White Sox have had as many big injuries as anybody. Mets have had a ton. We'll talk about the Mets in a minute. Good teams find a way to plug those holes and pick up for those guys. Yankees haven't done it. The depth is not good major league depth, right? Clint Frazier's exposed. When he's exposed, there's nobody to come in there. Andujar, I love Andujar. If you find a way to get him in the lineup, he's going to hit line drives all over the place. The problem is he can't play defense anywhere. Let's rent a bus and go to the city. You know, that might be the next road trip. Who knows? Indians' vaunted starters go down and the team stinks. Agreed. Pitching still matters, guys. So tired of watching guys get taken out in the 4th inning. Let's move to the finish up the Central. The Tigers are surprising me a little bit by playing better baseball recently. They're still 9 games under 500, but I thought this team would be atrocious, and there's a lot of teams worse than them. The Royals, really streaky. They've fallen back to 14 games behind. They're done. The Twins, 5 in a row they lost. One of my worst picks. Yankees bringing Eddie Feigner. And Rick's always up for a road trip. Well, maybe we'll put together something. I think John Gonzalez from the Sports Authorities is in New York City too. Maybe we can put together something and get some of our New York fans involved next time. We'll go to I don't know. We'll figure out some place, and I don't know. We'll think about it. But I think it's a good idea. Take TGI Sports Talk on the road. Let's go to the West. You guys may not want to talk about this, but the Astros are the best team in baseball. Playing tremendous baseball. Only 5-5 over the last 10, but they've won 3 in a row again. They by far have the largest run differential in baseball. They've gone to 18 games over 500. Still only 2.5 games over the Athletics, who continue to surprise me. And the Marlins hanging back there at 44-40. But the Astros are the best team in baseball. One of the reasons is the same reason when they won in 2017, and everybody thought it was because they were cheating. Well, I'm sure it had an effect and whatever. People have been stealing signs forever. They took it to another level. I get it. I still think too much was made of it. Sorry. That's the way baseball's been played forever. When every team does the same kind of things, did the Astros take it a step further? Probably as far as we know, but we aren't checking the teams that lost. Anyway, whether you like them, you hate them, they're playing great baseball right now. They're actually hitting the ball better than they did when they knew the signs, so that tells you how much helpful it might be to know the signs. Some guys don't want to know, you know. Some guys don't want to know the signs. But they do it with doubles and timely hitting. Hitting the ball where they ain't, moving base runners. It's not all home runs. Yankees should have signed somebody like Michael Brantley in the offseason. Great player. Astros are doing it very well. Their bullpen's still a little suspect. The pitching's been good. The offense is the best offense in baseball from an efficiency standpoint. Well, first of all, they're scoring more runs than the opposition by 138. I think it's 30 better than the next best team, maybe more. Go down. I probably got to go to West for that. 117 for the Dodgers. Brett, they're the best team in baseball, guys. They just are. Dusty Baker's got another team and maybe another chance to win. Uh-oh. Astros resemble the past Rangers. Slug teams to death even though their pitching is mediocre and inconsistent. Possibly. But again, you don't overcome bad. Your pitching isn't that bad when your run differential is 136. They get some good nights. They get some good pitching from some guys. They just do. Bullpen, I don't like. But they got a couple of good starters. And the offense isn't all home run or nothing. They get men on, they move guys around, they hit doubles, and everything's always moving around the bases. It's not station-to-station baseball. That's why. Just like the Patriots, they don't need to cheat. No, nobody needs to cheat. They all cheat. Not as far as the Patriots. Well, that's not bad. We could go to stands. Not a bad idea. Oh, my God. We can be going on that. Next. So the A's do stay close there, by the way, guys. I don't know how they do it. They do. Carlos, they're not trading for Harper, that's for sure. If I signed tomorrow, I'd be the highest paid guy in that team. I certainly exaggerate when I say that. Let's get into the National League. The Mets struggle a little bit recently. DeGrom, it's interesting. DeGrom struck out 14 the other night, and it didn't feel like he was as dominant as he usually is. His ERA went up. He gave up a few runs. His ERA actually went up. But he's having the most dominant season I can remember of any pitcher in my era. Not wins-wise. But the Mets have done a good job leading that division by 3.5. Now, partly it's because of how bad the division is, but they, too, have overcome some serious injuries. Got a great game pitched yesterday from Walker. Right? He looked DeGrom-ish out there for 5 innings. And the Mets, unless the rest of this division steps up, I just don't know if they're gonna be able to do that. How to deflate a baseball. Mets holding on, getting players back will help. Right. You know what, Drew? We talked about this a lot. The guys they've got coming back from injuries are almost like midseason additions. We're halfway through the season, and they're still haven't been getting really great contribution from Conforto or Nemo or McNeil, who are just working their way into playing shape, or either coming back or working their way into Major League Baseball shape. You got Carrasco at some point, hopefully coming off the DL. Doubtful you're going to get Syndergaard back. J.D. Davis, don't like his defense, love his bat. Mets are going to improve without even making any moves, and they'll probably make moves. Lindor playing a little bit better, and I think I'm going to give him a pass this year. It's tough to learn to play in New York. It's tough. It's not like playing anywhere else in sports. Not Cleveland. I'll give him a pass whatever he does this year. He's playing a little bit better. One thing he needs to do is stop calling out the fans. You cannot do that. You're not playing well. They're going to boo you. That's what fans do. Washington making a run. Well, they're still a game under 500. They've scored less runs than they've given up. And Schwarber's out. Schwarber's been on fire. I don't even know what his number. Maybe we'll take a look in a little while. His numbers he was on a streak that was historic. 11 home runs in 17 games. I don't even know what it was. It probably went further than that. Mets have won one more game than the Yankees. Well, that's only because they've played less games than the Yankees, Billy. Right? There's 6 games over 500. The Yankees are 1 game over 500. The Mets have only played 78 games so far, and the Yankees have played 81. They're a better team right now. They just are. They play better baseball. They pick each other up, which the Yankees don't do. Yankees moved to the National League East. They'll be one game out. Well, that unfortunately we don't do it that way. Braves pitching remains inconsistent, holding them back. I agree with that wholeheartedly, Drew. They've got some other issues. Their offense looks good on paper, but again, it's a home run or nothing team. They don't do the little things. I mean, Swanson struck out 80 times already. They're shortstop. Can't play that way. And you got the Azuna situation. Who knows if he'll be back? I thought they were the best team in all facets of the game in that division. We're still renting buses and making margaritas. So the Nationals are trying to fight back. I mean, the injury to Strasburg is going to hurt them. I'm not sure what his situation is. But, he's another guy with a history of arm injuries. And one pitcher. Oh, John Lester's pitching pretty good. One pitcher in Scherzer can't carry you to a division title. The Phillies we've talked about, again, I think the manager's an issue there. Joe Girardi's teams play tight. They just do. They always have. The Yankees, and that's why the Yankees, I think, struggled in the playoffs, except for 1 year under Joe Girardi. Play too tight. The Brewers are an interesting situation. 11 games they've won in a row. They're up to 18 games over 500. That wasn't long ago. They were battling back and forth, with the Cubs, and the Reds, and they've stretched that to 8 games in just 10 days or so. Great pitching. Burns, Woodard, the bullpen led by Hader. They get enough offense. They'll be traders. They're going to be buyers, by the way. When we get to before the trade deadline, which is July 31st. We're not that far away. They'll be buyers. They need some offense. They need a third baseman. They already traded for a shortstop and Adames. They could probably use another outfielder. But that team, another great job. I think Craig Counsell's a great manager and doesn't get his due, to be honest with you. Brewers are the best story this year besides the Giants. We'll get to the Giants in a second. Shocking. Brewers are amazing, and I did pick them to win this division. It's one of my few hits so far from our predictions. The Reds have continued to play well, too. The Cubs have fallen back kind of to, where we thought they'd be. They were playing great. They've now lost 8 games in a row. Cardinals, a major disappointment. 2 games under 500. And in the West, San Francisco, 22 games over 500 on the 4th of July. They're for real. Gabe Kapler is not, and maybe Gabe Kapler learned from his mistakes in Philadelphia. He still does some things that are a bit unconventional, but that team's winning, and they pick each other up, and they don't have superstars on that team. Kevin Gausman is their number 1 pitcher. Couldn't make it with the Orioles. Well, who could? But he's going to probably be on the All-Star team, and he is doing a fine job. The problem is you got 2 of the best teams in baseball that are chasing you. They're only a half game back in the Dodgers and the Padres. Padres play like, and Kevin Kernan, it's interesting. Kevin mentioned Friday that the Padres, one of the biggest problems he has with the Padres, he likes the team a lot. He loves Tatis' talent. I don't like some of his antics, but that's just me. He loves Tatis, as do I. He loves a lot of the other pieces they have there. The problem with them is that they seem to play like they've already won something. Padres haven't been very good in a long time. We're still going to the Reds are surprising for now. It's funny, Drew. They were surprising at the beginning of their season. They started off really well. They were leading that division the first few weeks, or maybe into late in the month. I can't remember now. But then they fell on hard times and fell quite a few games under 500 and battled back. They've got some interesting kids on that team. I just don't know if the pitching is going to hold up. I do think both wild cards will come from the National League West. There was a comment made last week that somebody thought there was 3 wild cards. There are not. There are 2. And it's pretty evident that both wild cards will come from the West. Is pretty sure the Padres, who would have the second wild card now, have a 7-game lead over the next closest person. Oh, sorry, I went backwards. Both wild card. Okay, guess we're caught up. Go to the Yankees game. We could do that too. We could do a lot of things. Hard to talk at a baseball game, though, right? Also going to cost a lot more money. Finishing up with the West, the Diamondbacks, guys, awful. It is unbelievable how bad the Diamondbacks are. Last week I gave you a stat that they were in their last 36 games before Sunday, they were 30-3 and 33. Well, they went 2-8 this last week, so that hasn't changed much. Are you eating again? Kenny, how many breakfasts do you get, dude? All right, let me see here. Oh, just got rid of you guys somehow. Hold on. It's true. Arizona says they won't sell off. Not sure what the hell the manager's attempting at. Well, they don't sell. They're going to get fired. And one place the Yankees should have their eye on is Marte. This team is nowhere near ready to win. And they've got some decent players. The Twins will be big sellers too. I was going to jump into that. I'm not sure. Yeah, we might have to jump into it a little bit. Let me get off this page here and go to the other thing I want to chat about. Let's chat about right now, since we're on the National League West. Let's talk about Trevor Bauer. Trevor Bauer has been suspended, put on administrative leave. He's going to get paid, but he can't play. The story gets worse and worse about this assault charge against Trevor Bauer. He said it was a he said, she said thing. Now there's photographs and there's phone calls and there's this and there's that. And I said last year, Trevor Bauer was not a good guy. Now, the Yankees were never really in play for Trevor Bauer. It had the money. Well, they did have the money, but they weren't going over the cap. The Mets were heavily involved in trying to bring him to Shea Stadium. And I said then, with everything going on with their GM and their ex-manager, you know, with the off-the-field stuff, for you to bring in this guy who had his own history of harassment would be a colossal mistake. And it's borne out that look at, he's innocent until proven guilty. But where there's smoke, there's fire. This is not a good guy. This is not a good guy. I'll jump back to that in a second, Drew. Bad guy. Bad guy. And I don't even know. I don't have anything else to say about it except the Mets. If they backed out on their own, kudos to them. If they just got outbid by the Dodgers, then they should thank their lucky stars. Because this guy is bad news. Great talent, 2-cent head. Let me back up for a second because Drew had a comment about Colorado. The Colorado's in a tough position. They're playing a little bit better baseball than I think we thought they would. I thought they'd be worse than the Diamondbacks, to be honest with you. I thought they might possibly be the worst team in baseball, and they would probably trade Trevor Story. Trevor Story is playing better baseball since he came back from the injury list. And Trevor Story, by all accounts, loves Colorado. Doesn't want to be traded. So I guess that's going to be, worth watching. But the problem is, Trevor Story, I don't have his age right in front of me here, but you're not going to rebuild this team in a year, right? How productive is Trevor Story going to be when you're ready to win again? Tough situation. So I don't really know. Let's look quickly at the All-Star lineups. We don't have the reserves yet, but the game is scheduled to be played next Tuesday, July 12th. I used to love the baseball All-Star game when I was a kid. I don't get that wrapped up in it anymore. A lot of times the stars beg out of it, especially pitchers. Even a home run derby and things like that have worn on me. And I think the fact that you get to see these guys play. When I was a kid, I didn't get to see these guys play. You know, I got 10 Yankee games a year up here, 10 or 20 Yankee games a year, and no National League baseball unless they were on the game of the week on Saturdays. Now I can watch any team anytime I want almost. So it's not as exciting. I didn't get to see, when I was a kid, I didn't get to see Henry Aaron. I saw him play in the All-Star game. I didn't get to see Bobby Bonds. I didn't get to see Johnny Bench and Joe Morgan. I didn't even get to see Rod Carew unless they're playing the Yankees on one of those 20 games. I didn't get to see some great players. And I think that's changed now. So with baseball now, it doesn't hold the same, and maybe it's because I'm old. I don't know. It doesn't hold the same allure for me. I used to love it. So last year there was no All-Star game because of the shortened season. I'm sorry, they did play an All-Star game, didn't they? They didn't have the festivities around it last year. So the Home Run Derby will be Monday before it, and the All-Star game will be Tuesday, July 13th. Sorry. The Major League Baseball draft will also take place during the All-Star break in Denver. Yeah, the MLB trying really hard to make the draft a big deal, like the NFL. Much harder though, because you don't have the focus on these guys in high school and college the way you do in football or even basketball. Mike Trout elected. How honorary. Yes. But look at Freddie. So here's the National League starters. Freddie Freeman. I guess I can't argue with that. Adam Frazier, one of the big surprises in baseball. Drew talked about it in our fantasy league that he was on the waiver wire for the longest time. Adam Frazier is also one of the most prominent guys talked about when it talked about getting traded. He can play a lot of positions, and he's really having a great year, and he could help a team immensely for a stretch run. Fernando Tatis Jr., no-brainer. Nolan Arenado, sorry, for the Cardinals. Not having a bad year, but I think some third basemen have had probably as good a year, but can't argue with that pick too much. Cardinals often get a lot of guys elected just because of the sheer volume of fans that show up. Acuna Jr., obviously front runner for the MVP, one of the front runners for the MVP. Nick Castellanos from the Cincinnati Reds, a bit of a surprise, having a great year, but still a surprise to get elected as a Red. And another Red, Jesse Winkler, having a great season out of nowhere. These guys had been decent players, but hadn't had a chance to play every day. And you wonder why the Reds weren't playing every day before this. So that's the National League starters. I can't argue a lot with that. I don't know if I mentioned Buster Posey. I think it's great that Buster Posey's had the comeback season. Drew talked earlier about what a great story the Giants are. Buster Posey's a great story as well, coming back after really being in decline the last good 3 or 4 years. And having a comeback season. He'll be a comeback player of the year if he continues his pace. In the American League, Vlad Guerrero Jr., I got to tell you something. Brett Cloutier, who was here earlier and most likely is gone. We had this debate about the Blue Jays, and I said that Vlad would eat his way out of the league. Well, Vlad is not. Vlad has gotten himself in some pretty good shape. Maybe, he's still not, Adonis, but he's got himself in great shape, and he's one of the best players in baseball. He's playing much better defensively at first base. Moving him over across the diamond was smart for the Blue Jays, but he can do everything on the baseball field. He's a really good player. Another Blue Jay, Marcus Semien, having a great year. Got off to a little bit of a rough start, but he's having a great year for the Blue Jays. Bogarts we talked about with the Red Sox. I have no argument there. Devers, another great player for the Red Sox. Absolutely no argument there. Salvador Perez, probably the best catcher in the American League. I don't think I have he may be the best catcher in baseball. Mike Trout gets elected even though he's injured, but this happens a lot. Drew made a comment about it being honorary. There's been a lot of guys who get elected based on past performance, get elected when they're injured. But I really don't have a problem with a Mike Trout getting elected, and then we have to replace him. Aaron Judge, no surprise there. His third election, I believe. One of the big surprises for me is Teoscar Hernandez for the Toronto Blue Jays. Big surprise there. Because as Drew mentioned here, I'm going to jump back to your comment in a second, Rick. Cedric Mullins, what's his name? Cedric Mullins, Drew? It's not coming to me right now, but he's having a great year in Baltimore. Baltimore's got to have a representative, so Mullins is going to get on the team. But I think I would have had him in the outfield. Again, I don't have a problem with Trout getting elected. I just don't. But maybe over Hernandez. But then you hurt that guy. So it's a tough decision. But all-star teams are always going to have arguments about who should be there, the fans' favorites or the best players. And Ohtani's the DH. Ohtani's awesome. I got to tell you, third week in a row, I was going to get to some of the buyers and sellers, and we probably aren't going to do that today, but we'll do that maybe next week. Cedric, thank you, Drew. And he did get screwed. He's having a really, really good first half. He's a guy, Drew, we talked about our fantasy team, and I'm not going to bore you guys with our fantasy team, but there's a bunch of guys. Drew did a little rundown of guys who made the All-Star team, and Mullins, who got screwed. I've had on and off my team probably 10 times this year, and also Semien, who I have also streamed him on and off my team probably 4 or 5 times. So shows you how smart I am. Ohtani, by the way, I had this discussion with. I'd like your guys' opinion. Ohtani is just an awesome talent. And I had this conversation with Kevin Kernan, and I think they should stop pitching him because he has so much talent as a hitter, and he's really got talent as a pitcher, but he's very, very raw, and he stands much better chance of hurting himself, as he already has in his career, on the mound than playing at DH or playing in the outfield. Kevin disagreed with me in the fact that he thought it was really good for baseball that this guy's talent is on display on the mound and at the plate, which I get, and I don't disagree with that comment. But if I'm the Angels and I want to protect my long-term investment, and how this guy's not in the Yankees is beyond me. Yeah, this is the type of guy the Yankees need in Yankee Stadium, and we don't have him. We got all right-handed hitters. And they could have had him. But I just think they need to protect their investment and maybe just keep him a hitter. He is just what he does. He's such a great player, great hitter, not that big a guy. I'm excited. I may actually have some interest in the home run hitting contest this year because of Ohtani being in there. Now, I think we'll see the rest of the see if I have any information on that. I would think by the middle of this week, if not by the end of the week, we'll have the rest of the squad's name, including the pitchers. They do some interesting things with so you got here. You're both correct, but longevity leans towards Ohtani just hitting. not the Angels will get any better for it. I agree. Well, the Angels might. Someday the Angels might get out of their own way and actually start winning, but they got to put some pitchers on the mound, which is, I think, why they pitch Ohtani. And, Kevin and I did come to the agreement. We agreed with each other's comments. I understand playing him, putting him on the mound from a fan perspective and for the game is good. But, again, for his long-term health, I would concentrate on the batter's box. Brett talked about he liked Kevin's idea of putting him in the 9-hole and pitching days instead of leading him off. That's a good point. And Kevin made a really good point. There's other hitters in baseball who have been good hitters. Madison Bumgarner that comes to mind right away. Tom Seaver, I know, is a good hitter, but they still hit ninth, even if they were better than maybe some of the other guys in the lineup, especially back in the 70s and 60s. But having to hit before you take the mound sometimes can be a problem. And hitting up in the lineup obviously puts more pressure on you to perform offensively, and you take that to the mound and blah, blah, blah. And you saw that happen to Ohtani the other night against the Yankees. I don't know. I just like the idea of I think I skipped something Rick put up, but I'll go back up to you, Rick. Sorry. He's an awesome hitter, but the draw is his comparison to Babe Ruth. Well, Babe Ruth stopped pitching after a while. Babe Ruth didn't pitch for the Yankees. He only pitched for the Red Sox. Ohtani's not going to challenge any home run records. Not that I think he's going to. If he's pitching. Because he's going to get hurt and miss more time. So, but I get the comparison to Ruth, but again, the Yankees traded for Babe Ruth. He did not pitch again. He might have pitched, in a mop up or something. I missed something Rick put up here. PTI is going off ESPN. One of the last shows I enjoyed. A little off topic, but I agree. I did not know PTI was going off. I don't see it as much as I used to. Working from home, I don't really see the things that I used to see often. I could watch it a later time. I think ESPN2 runs it later, but it just doesn't match up great with my schedule. I should tape it. I could watch it in the mornings here as I'm getting myself started. But PTI is a great show, by the way. Awesome show. I'd love to try to have a PT. We have a little PTI show here with all you guys being my antagonists. Like Kornheiser is one of my favorites, guys, and Michael Wilbon I like as well. Tony Kornheiser, I'm way off topic, aren't I? I mean, I'm going to get to the NBA. Tony Kornheiser, I was listening to, and he's first of all, I was reading him in a Washington Post for many, many, many years. He's a great sports writer. He had a radio show that started long before PTI that was tremendous. It was a great radio show, and I used to listen to it when I was in a car. I was in the beer business, out and about all day long. So it was a lot of fun. So yeah, it's unfortunate. ESPN's going the wrong direction, man. How to get hurt pitching? No, arm injuries. He already had an arm injury last year, is for sure. That cost him, or 2 years ago. I lose track because of COVID, but he already had an arm injury. I mean, Kenny, you pitched. You don't break fingernails or blisters. We're talking about major arm injuries, and you can't hit. You tear a rotator cuff, you tear your ulnar nerve. You're not hitting either. I'm just saying. I could be wrong. And by the way, he's very raw as a pitcher. He throws 100 miles an hour, but he doesn't have great command. Ruth started one game in 1920 and started one and relieved one in 21. Stunk all 3 times. Well, there you go. Because he didn't pitch. Right? My ombudsman, Drew Ehrlich, picks me up there again. Thank you for that, Drew. All right, guys, I'm going to move on. Let's see if we have any last comments here. Dislocated shoulder. Kenny, you ought to know about that. What's Brett got here? ESPN is going the right direction. They signed the NHL deal. Well, all right. I'll give you that. But unless Doc Emmerich's doing the games, it ain't winning them any. Gosh, you know what? I like the NHL, but who's watching? Nobody's going to watch until the playoffs. NBC didn't give it up for nothing. Hockey's a great game, but it doesn't draw big audiences. It tends to be a very regional sport. People in Houston don't care about watching the Rangers. People in LA don't care about watching the Lightning. Now they're doing their best by signing some star power, but that doesn't work either. I'm not trying to put the game down, Brett. You know that. It's just look at it. I remember when NBC, basically the NHL paid NBC to put the games on. That wasn't that long ago. At least it doesn't feel that long ago. We'll see about that. All right, let me move on here, because I do have a few things I want to chat about. We'll get in the NBA. We're going to cover it quickly today, I guess. We have our final set. Milwaukee. Hold on here, guys. I am once again on my wrong note page. So last night, Bucks wrapped up their series with the Hawks, 118-107, had a really big third quarter, scoring 44 points, outscoring the Hawks by 15. That was kind of the nail in their coffin. Really, really, two guys stepping up. Drew Holiday stepped up yesterday with 27 points, 9 rebounds, nine assists. He's an underrated player. Middleton stepped up as well. Kevin Middleton scored 32 points last night, had 7 assists. They picked up the fact that Giannis wasn't there. The Bucks are very hopeful that Giannis will be there. And the Bucks are in their first final since 1974, guys. That's 47 years. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was their center the last time they were in the NBA playoffs, and they lost to the Celtics, I believe, that year. They have not won in 50 years. Interesting. The anniversary of their only world championship in Milwaukee is 50 years ago this year. I'll back up to Kenny's comment real quick, and we'll be done. Sorry, can't see him getting hurt anymore on the mound. Well, again, he can get hurt doing all that stuff. But there's a reason more guys don't do this. Anyway, back to the NBA. By the way, so the interesting thing about the Bucks is we went into, because they were not playing. They didn't have a great regular season. They were really up and down. They struggled early in the playoffs. The coach, Mike Budenholzer, was on the verge of possibly losing his job if they went out early in the playoffs. He's certainly not now. And they're surrounding, and there was questions about the cast surrounding Giannis. And I think those questions have been answered. Drew Holiday, I always thought was a really, really good player. And he's showing he stepped up when they needed him most. Brook Lopez, by the way, the other night went out for 44 points. That was really hurt the Hawks a lot, too, in Game 5. Their defense just allowing Brook Lopez to go off for 44 points, not good. Not good. In Game 6, the rest of the notes from there, Trae Young, tried to come back and play with a bad ankle in Game 6. Wasn't effective. 4 of 17, 14 points. He did have 9 assists, but I give him credit for trying to make a go of it, but he just couldn't do it. And I think he's a great player. I think the Hawks are probably around for a while now. I think they've got the makings of a good team, but I'm not sure how good that's going to be without some changes. I mean, they've got some good players, but they don't have that outside of Young. They don't have that one big guy. Kevin Huerter, by the way, from a local perspective, Shenandoah grad, had a really bad game 6 here. Only went 2 for 10, scored 5 points. So not good for him. So we have our final matchup. the Phoenix Suns will be taking on the Milwaukee Bucks. Probably not probably not ABC's dream matchup. But I think it's good for basketball. Right? We complain all the time. Oh, we see the Heat, we see the Lakers, we see the Cavs, we see the Warriors, we see the Celtics. I think this will be great for basketball. Phoenix is a fun team. You know, whether you like Chris Paul or you don't, he stepped up huge in their game 6, scored 42 points. They got some great players on that team. Booker's a great player. Their coach, Carlos, still here, Carlos? Carlos really thinks that he should be the coach of the year, and I don't disagree. Any of the 3 guys that got it could have got it. They do it before the playoffs. If they did it after the playoffs, I think there'd be no question Monty Williams would be the coach of the year. See you later, Drew. Glad to have you participate as always. Love having you guys in. I'm going backwards. You get a quick draw. Quick draw. I don't remember the quick draw. Why quick draw? So anyway, Phoenix against Milwaukee. I think it'll be a very interesting series. Obviously, a lot depends on can't get back to a lot will depend on whether Giannis can play and how well, how close to 100% he will be. The series starts, I think tomorrow night. Nope, doesn't start until Tuesday night. Tuesday, Thursday, they'll be in Phoenix. Phoenix is healthier, obviously. Phoenix has been a great story all year long. I think I'm picking Milwaukee, though. I've been, totally. Where are we here? Super fan who beat up the Nuggets fan is the true glue of the Suns. Booker bought him tickets for the rest of the playoffs. The fans love Booker out there, by the way. He's a great player. Great player. But I'm going out on a limb here, and I think the Bucks now are about ready to get over that hump that they haven't been able to get over in a few years. They need Giannis to get miraculously healthy from this hyperextended knee and be just, even if he can play, so that they have to keep the Suns honest. If he doesn't play at all, Suns got a much better chance. That's not saying a lot. I understand. I'm not going on a limb there, but I think the Bucks are going to get over the top, and then the 50th anniversary of their last championship, win this in 7 games. We'll see where we are. Great matchup. I think there's some great role players on both teams. Great stars on both teams. And I think that'll be a great series. Drew, past tense of draw. Oh, my God. Guys, I got a few notes for the football, if I can read them. The Washington football team, formerly known as the Redskins, fined $10 million for the toxic work environment that was created by maybe not Daniel Snyder, but his management team. And Daniel Snyder really, other than the $10 million, escapes. Will the Weiner show for the OTAs? No, he will not. We'll get to that in a second. No suspension for Snyder. I think the NFL probably did not do their due diligence here. This was a serious situation that should have been addressed much more severely than was. And, I'm not going to dive into it too much just because it tends to lead into political and other nonsense, but I'm not going to take a look at that. I was going to talk about some Rookie of the Year odds. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to run down some quick notes. Wide receiver Josh Gordon's applied for reinstatement for, the 100th time. Great player. Another guy with a 10-cent head. Look, I know that guys have problems. He's tried to get help over and over again. He got back in the league last year, tentatively with Seattle and then had another relapse. I understand it's a sickness. But, dude, you know, how many chances are you going to give these guys? Hard Knocks. Dallas will be the topic or the team of choice on Hard Knocks on HBO for the third time. I don't care. You guys want to watch a really good behind-the-scenes show? If you have Prime Video, watch All or Nothing. It follows these teams throughout the year, and it's really entertaining. And they don't follow the same teams all the time. I don't think they did one last year because of COVID, but there's at least 5 seasons in there. Go back and watch them. They're awesome. They're really well done. And as far as the Whiners showing up for the OTAs, I predicted a couple of weeks ago that Aaron Rodgers would not show up for the OTAs. He would not show up for training camp. And when he shows up, it'll be either right before the season starts or a couple of weeks in. I don't see him get traded. I did mention last week he's got this little out potentially because of COVID, but I don't think it doesn't sound like it's a loophole that he can make use of. But we'll see. We'll see what happens there. I had a note about, let's see if I can find this quickly. We've still got a few minutes left here. Urban Meyer and the Jaguars among several teams that were fined for OTA violations. So I guess it's not OTAs actually. It should mean, Rick, I think you mean training camp, because training camp is the next thing. Fred Rogers is over. I got a couple more comments about Rogers in a second. But the Jaguars were fined $500,000 and Coach Urban Meyer $100,000. The 49ers fined $100,000 and Kyle Shanahan $50,000, and the Cowboys were fined $100,000 and the coach $50,000. Just for the way the things that they did. Let's see, of course, including management council ordering the 49ers to cancel. The 49ers were forced to cancel the final week of their OTAs. The Cowboys were ordered to forfeit one of their OTA practices next year. And the Jaguars said in the aftermath that the club is vigilant about practicing within the CBA rules and will emphasize off-season training rules as they relate to the contract. Okay. So this is another point, guys. You guys all talk about, and we don't have time to get into it deep. Let's just remember the Patriots aren't the only ones trying to skirt every rule that's out there. Every single rule that's in NFL, Major League Baseball, the NHL, we just talked about today. What am I missing? Missing somebody. The NBA, whatever. They're all trying to get around the rules. They're all looking for loopholes. And when they get caught, they get fined. The last thing I will talk about, and Rick, I don't know if you're a golf fan, but if you are, you must tune in next week because I can't think of 2 guys I want to root against more than Aaron Rodgers and Bryson DeChambeau. The professional golfer, to lose badly. Not to just lose badly, but to be humiliated, similar to the way Phil Mickelson and Tom Brady, who will be playing against them next Sunday, or I don't know if it's Saturday or Sunday, but or maybe it's a 2-day event. I don't know. But they did something similar last year during COVID when there was nothing going on, and Brady and Mickelson played Peyton Manning and Tiger Woods and dismantled them. And I can't wait to watch Aaron Rodgers get his ass handed to him by Tom Brady, who plays pretty good golf, by the way. If you didn't watch this last year, it was very entertaining and fun, except the fact it wasn't competitive. Phil, who's 50-some years old, outplayed Tiger, and I can't wait to see him out. Rick is with me. I knew he would be. I can't wait to see him outplay DeChambeau either, because he's another guy that's just a big. All of a sudden, here when golf was shut down, he bulked up Don't tell me he's not doing performance-enhancing drugs. I mean, he bulked up 50 pounds and is out hitting the ball 400 yards off the tee, for crying out loud. And he's not a likable guy. Just is not a likable guy. The feud that him and Brooks Koepka has, if you're gonna have a fun golf feud, Arnie and Jack had one for years. That was probably played up more in the media than it really was, but this is a good golf feud. They take little shots at each other when they're walking behind them in interviews. It's awesome. Check out some of the video. It's awesome. I'm excited about that. Guys, lots of cup, man. We got so much to talk about again next week. We'll wrap up the NHL playoffs. The NBA playoffs will be in full swing. Major League Baseball All-Star Weekend will be the last weekend before the All-Star break. Daryl Cheney, former world champion with the Cincinnati Reds. He'll be my guest on Friday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time. See you then. Keith Engel for TGI Sports Talk. You guys have a great 4th of July. Stay dry. Have fun. Be safe with your fireworks. And let's see you next week. Bye-bye, guys.
I mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn.